Good morning, YouTube. Welcome to the Reptile Barn. Picture this. You're a ball python breeder. You're maybe 4 years in. You've been doing well. You're excited. You've hatched a bunch of clutches. You've made sales. You've gotten your feet wet. You know what you're doing. And inflation starts happening. People stop spending so much, and you're starting to panic because you're still hatching a bunch of snakes and sales have really slowed down. Okay? I hope that's not familiar to anybody, but it might be right now. Um, Sales are slow. Sales just for ball pythons, I'm talking, and some other species as well in the reptile world. But ball pythons is what I'm talking about here. This may apply to others of you as well. They haven't dried up, they're not gone, but certainly not what you will be used to if you got started, 4 or 5 years ago, for example. So today I want to talk about what can be done, right? And I kind of mean other than quitting, because if you need to quit, if you need to get out, you know your situation best, your finances, etc. But I'm talking about if you really want to stay in, you're willing to work hard, you're willing to try things, you're just not sure what to do. So that's what I'm going to talk about here, okay? And I've done a vlog similar to this before. I love talking about the business side of things, not in kind of a chase every last dollar kind of way, but just the intricacies of how to do business with live animals and how this all works and everything. I'm learning as well. So first off, let me just say, before I get into any of these methods or ideas, I'm kind of assuming two things. I am assuming that you are resilient and flexible. And resilient, I just mean like your attitude. You're hardworking. You're not going to get stuck in the victimhood mentality. That doesn't mean you can't be a victim of something bad, but we're talking about the attitude. The woe is me, everything's terrible, I'm just doomed and cursed and whatever. That's not going to get you anywhere. So if your attitude is right and you're flexible, meaning you're willing to try new things, you're willing to go outside of your comfort zone, you're willing to take advice from people, that kind of thing. If that's who you are, then these methods may be helpful. If you're not going to do those two things, I'm not certain that these things will help. But that's where we're at. So first I want to talk about where you make sales, okay? Because for the last so many years, people have kind of gotten, especially with ball pythons, into this mindset of like, I can breed my snakes, hatch my snakes, list them on Morph Market, and they're going to sell. Right? Now, for any of you who don't know what Morph Market is, it is amazing. I am not saying don't get on Morph Market. I'm just saying it used to be enough. That was it. It's a classified ad website, as well as forums and other things for the reptile and exotics animal world. It's a sales platform, right? And it's really, really, really high end. You know, it's a good website. Definitely use Morph Market. But it is no longer enough. Right now, for whatever reason, people who are still having a lot of success selling their snakes, their ball pythons, and really a lot of reptiles, are using expos. They are vending at a lot of expos, and I have talked to some people who up to like 75 or 80% of their total sales are happening at expos. Okay? So, wow, first off, but second off, like, do that, right? If you breed on any sort of scale to where it would be worth paying the vendor fee and all the work it takes to go and be a vendor at one of these big expos, do it. Or even smaller local ones, like the one we just did in Alaska. It's not a big expo, but everyone made sales, almost everyone made a lot of sales. So for whatever reason, expos are definitely a way to go. Second, social media. Morph Market is not enough on the internet. Use social media. I think this is pretty obvious to most people, and yet a lot of people aren't doing it. And again, this kind of old mindset of like, I'm going to throw up a post about, hey, buy my snakes every so often. That's not going to do it. Be present. And to a lot of people, it's not fun. I don't have a ton of fun on any social media except for YouTube, but you got to do it. The better you are at it, the more eyeballs you're going to put yourself in front of, and when you're trying to make sales, that's huge. And then the last thing, as far as the places you're actually selling, local advertising. Now I realize, geographically speaking, my situation is a little bit unique. Being in Alaska, I can't really advertise locally outside of like my city and maybe one or two other cities that are close enough, right? A lot of you guys who live in a huge metropolitan area, um, you're going to really benefit by bringing in local people, because there is a large group of reptile buyers out there who do not want to go to a big box pet store, and they do not want to ship. That's where you come in, but they have to know about you. So figure out local, and I'm not gonna get into this video into how you do that, but it is a thing. And I'm talking, sometimes it's old school radio, right? Newspaper, things that younger generations especially like, what? But local advertising, pass out flyers. So many stores have bulletin boards that let you put up stuff. So take advantage of this, right? Those are maybe underutilized places to make sales, for people who just got used to Morph Market and nothing else. So next, and this one hurts, but cut costs. When sales are down, but you still have all your same expenses, especially if your profit margin was already really tight, you're all of a sudden hurting badly, right? And you end up like a lot of breeders where you're supplementing with your personal money and your business isn't paying its own bills, and that sucks. So cut costs. Sometimes that means you don't get to have your entire collection in beautiful brand new Freedom Breeder racks. Sometimes that means you're like me and you've got a bunch of DIY stuff all over the place. Big enclosures, small enclosures, racks. We have saved, I'm going to throw out a random number, 10,000, maybe $15,000 during our business's lifetime by not buying state of the art, brand new, kind of top of the industry equipment, I guess. That does not mean skimp on husbandry equipment, but on the enclosures. And I am not handy at all. Luckily, my wife and my brother are enough so that we can build perfectly good things. But cut costs in some way or another. Breed your own rodents. That's another thing a lot of reptile breeders are not interested in doing, but it will save you money. So, as sucky as that is, you gotta face the facts. When sales are lower, you have to make up that margin somewhere. Especially because of my next point, which is you're gonna have to probably lower your prices. That's, again, this is basic business. So much of this isn't just ball pythons or even animals. This is just business, right? When demand goes down and you still have inventory that you need to be selling, you're going to have to lower your prices. Of course, advertise, advertise, advertise. Try and find a larger, market, but realistically, your prices are going to go down. Everybody does this. Giant corporations down to small businesses. That's just part of life. And right now, demand for ball pythons is lower. So I'm not saying slash all your prices by 90% immediately overnight, but pay attention to, if you're on Morph Market, look at what's selling. Not just what's been sitting there for 2 years not selling, but what is actually moving and what are they priced at, right? So now let's get into the more exciting things, hopefully. Diversify your species. We have become enamored by Mutation Creation, Ozzy, Justin Kabilka, these industry leaders who are hyper successful and have earned every ounce of that success, by the way. This is not to bash on them, and I respect the crap out of them. They're amazing at what they do. But most of us are not, I think, going to be able to do that. And what I mean is, when their sales are down, they're going to be okay because they have very, very large production. Their average price point on their snakes is very, very high. They're okay. For little guys, if your sales are super, super low in your ball pythons and that's all you have, that's a problem. Right now, we have sailfin dragons. We have a waiting list for our Philippine sailfin dragons that we can't even fill. We cannot produce them fast enough. The demand is sky high. We have people on a waiting list, and this is just like embarrassing, for Eastern indigos. And we don't even have females yet to breed. But people are like, oh my gosh, you have those. I've been wanting one forever. And you need the interstate permit thing. So some people are like, I'll just wait however long it takes for you to have them. Again, local. These are local people that know who we are. We've done our footwork to get our name out there. They know we have this one male and we're planning on breeding them, and they're on a waiting list. I have stopped taking people onto this waiting list because it seems ridiculous to me. Same with the sailfin dragons, but my point is diversify your species. In any other business, when you diversify your types of revenue streams, if one sector of your business is struggling, you have things to fall back on, right? Think of it like an investment portfolio. If you only have real estate, well, that's wonderful when real estate is booming, not so good when the real estate market is bad for investors, right? If you only have stocks, same thing. Over the long term, stock market is great, but in the short term, it goes like this. And if you're down here at any given time, that can be really bad if that's all you have. So people diversify. They talk about precious metals and all these things that you can get into for your investments. It's the same thing in reptiles. Diversify your species. Find things that aren't just the hyper popular morph species, because I have found at least that often rarer, high-end, highly sought after species, and then the ball pythons, leopard geckos, corn snakes, the ones with tons of morphs that are also super popular pets, their markets do not seem highly correlated. To me, this is just my observation, but it seems like these types of things over here are doing great right now, and ball pythons are not. I've also heard that crested geckos are just so difficult to sell right now. Another one with tons and tons of different morphs that are just crazy popular pets. I say entry level, which is ridiculous because it's a wonderful animal, but it is kind of a first lizard for a lot of people. They're struggling. People who only do crested geckos, right? So if that's something you are able to do, diversify your species. It will strengthen your business. And then the last thing that's very related to that is just diversify all of your goods and services. Maybe get into selling feeders, or selling enclosures, or selling substrate, husbandry equipment, do events, birthday parties and things like that, just little local stuff. Just that this is so important because it does seem that when the economy or whatever it may be is causing people to be to stop buying the new animals that breeders are producing, they're still willing to spend money on the animals they already have. So it isn't fully connected, selling your animals as a breeder and selling all the kind of support industry around that, right? That can be more stable even in a time like now where sales of the actual animals are down, if that makes sense. So think about all the different types of things you can monetize. Again, I don't say that to be like greedy, like, get all the money, but if you're a business trying to survive, find goods and services that people want, that people need, and are still willing to pay for, that can be extra revenue streams for your business. We have had times where, for whatever reason, a couple months went by with very few ball python sales, and we had a surplus of rodents. We don't really sell a ton of feeders. We don't have enough of them. But we didn't have very many babies at the time of like our snakes, so we had a bunch of extra rodents, and we sold a ton of feeders, and it got us through this kind of 2.5 month period of very low snake sales, right? So now, of course, I wish that we had, a big chunk of money in savings that could get us through that, but right now we don't. So that was wonderful for us. And we have done events, we do the expo, things like that, to kind of be other types of revenue streams so that hopefully, again, when one sector of the business is not thriving, other things might be. And other than that, those are kind of the things I really wanted to hit on. I hope that was informational and helpful. One thing I want to ask you guys is, a lot of you breed, and I don't know I'm not a business guru. So if I did not touch on something that you think would be helpful, I really am hoping this video can be somewhere that people can come to and look for ideas. Put them in the comments, please. It will help me as well, right? If you have an idea that I didn't touch on, because there's tons of things you can do. I'm sure that I missed a bunch. Please do put them in the comments. Even if you're not a breeder, if you just have an idea that you're like, oh, this might be helpful, put it down there. I really appreciate that kind of. I appreciate all the comments, but especially the ones that are like super helpful. So, anyways, that is all. Thank you for sitting through my rambling. But again, I really wanted to make a video that can give some ideas and a little bit of hope, because there are a lot of people right now that are just like, I'm just going to wholesale off my entire collection for 5% of what it's worth because I got to get out of this. It's sinking me. And that's sad. If it's somebody who doesn't want to, if they're being forced out, I would love to give a few ideas that maybe somebody can be like, well, I can't do all of those things, but I can do 2 of them, right? I'll sign up as a vendor for the first time, It's scary for some people, but whatever. I hope it was helpful. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, we're the Reptile Barn.